Hello, everyone. As you all know, climate change is something that threatens fundamentally the way we live our life on our planet. And it is seen as the biggest threat to humanity in the coming century. But climate change, as many posit it, is not an issue of technology. We have the technology to combat climate change. We, even as a planet, have the money to combat climate change. What we need and what we don't have right now to combat climate change is the political will to do so. Climate change is not a natural disaster. Climate change, unlike terrorism that shook us, shook the global community to its core, is not something that some rogue militarized elements have started. Climate change is something that has been caused by the affluent, but the brunt is to be faced by those who are not so affluent. And this can be supported by the Global Climate Risk Index's findings. Recently published report outlines the 10 most vulnerable countries in climate change, which puts Puerto Rico as the number one, as the most vulnerable country, with Pakistan at number five, Vietnam at number six, and many Philippines in number four, and many other small islandic countries as well. But if we look at the top 10 largest contributors to climate change, you will not find an overlap. We have the United States of America, we have China, we have India, we have the Russian Federation, we have Japan, and we have followed by a couple of other European states. So, what must we do to bridge this gap? Because those because those who are inflicting the most damage are not the ones who are left to face the brunt of it. The solution appears to be one of diplomacy, because we cannot leave poor countries while fending for themselves, while having to feed the poor, while having to focus on their infrastructural development, also rack up funds to ensure that they to enable climate action. We cannot leave poor countries, developing countries, to fend for themselves, to counter poverty, and at the same time fund climate action that has not been a problem of their own causing. Which is why what I propose here is the need for an international coalition for climate action of countries that are most vulnerable by climate change. And it is not something unknown diplomacy or global diplomacy or something strange and alien to international relations. We saw during the 20th century countries, non-contiguous geographical countries, geographical territories coming together to protect the interests of their member states. We saw at the height of the Cold War, when the communist Second World and the capitalist First World were engaged in a proxy war, a new coalition of countries emerged under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru, Jamal Abdel Nasser, President Sukarno of Indonesia, and President Tito of Yugoslavia, and Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, in the form of non-aligned movement. And it was a movement, it was a coalition of countries whose fundamental aim was to protect the interests of member states. We saw in the 1970s, and from the process starting from Rabat in 1969 and culminating in Lahore in 1972, the formation of the Organization of Islamic Conference, the OIC, which was a Muslim bloc, whose fundamental interest, the fundamental priority was to protect the interests of its member states. And we saw something very similar when oil producing countries and exporting countries formed OPEC to protect the interests of their member states, to collectively bargain to protect the interests of their member states. And it is something very similar that must be done to combat climate change. Yes, we have small islandic associations, but what we need is a larger, broad-based coalition of countries that exercise their political capital. And it is not something that cannot be done. We saw when the pandemic struck us, when the COVID-19 hit us, G20 countries decided to give a bailout package to those countries who fell under the IDA and the LDC, the Least Developed Countries Index of the World Bank and the United Nations. And they write off their loans. They gave them development supplementary aid and loans to fund counter pandemic measures. We saw countries such as the United States of America dole out trillions of dollars in aid to counter COVID-19's effects. And something similar was envisioned in the Paris Climate Agreement in the form of a green climate fund. But that green climate fund has a total endowment of $10 billion. The US alone to its citizens during the pandemic gave out a 2.2 trillion temporary bailout. So for a population more than 20 times the size of the US and for a planet that inhabits more than 200 countries, $10 billion appears to be next to nothing. So if we are to enable climate action, if we are sincere about helping those who are most vulnerable to climate change, a global, comprehensive, transnational, transcontinental coalition of countries most vulnerable, coalition of countries consisting of the most vulnerable, including Philippines, Vietnam, Pakistan, which and this coalition would even have member states which have significant political, military, and economic standing in the world, and thus they will be able to better collectively bargain and ask for protection. Because what we currently need is climate action on war footings. The best case scenario under the Paris Climate Agreement leaves us in not a very good state. We would have glacial ice melting, our polar regions almost eradicated, and a mass migration of humans all across the world. We would have, even if we are to continue under the Paris Climate Agreement's projections, which seem very unlikely, most of the cities that we currently go to visit for our vacation, or most of the financial centers, including Shanghai and New York, would be submerged into water. Parts of Bangladesh, Philippines, and the entire country of Kiribati will be vanished from the face of the earth. So for us, time is of the essence. The threat is real. The problem is ours. The problem is yours. And the time to act is now.